Welcome, Veritas family. Thank you so much for joining us today on Give and Take. I'm Sherry Davis, and I am joined here today by Jamison Coppola. Hey, Jamison.
Hello, Sherry. It's good to be with you and the students.
Yes, we're so glad to have you today. If you are watching live or in replay, be sure to type your name in the comments. We'd love to see where you guys are. Um, just to change it up a little bit today, I'm going to do a little bit of a promo for Veritas. If you are a prospective student, or maybe the Lord is tugging at your heart to jump into classes, give us a call. We are eager to take your call and to help you walk through that process. We count it a great honor to come alongside God's call on people's lives. And so that is our privilege. Maybe you're a student who's finishing up a bachelor's program and needs to hop into a master's program, or maybe you have a master's program and need to jump into our doctoral program. We've got you covered. So give us a call, check us out, and maybe you're out there looking for free resources. We have Truth Matters Institute, which is completely free courses. You can jump in. Some people use them for personal Bible study. Some of our churches use them for Sunday school curriculum. Lots of ways that you can use that free resource. So hop in, give us a call, message us. We'll get you all taken care of. Now, with that said, we're going to dive right in with Jamison. Now, Jamison, tell us, we like to ask our guests, what is your Veritas origin story? How did you become a part of the Veritas family?
Well, thank you for having me, Sherry. Students, it's good to be with you. My Veritas story started when I was in college because God put me into friendship with a former president at Veritas, and that was Dr. John Edmonds.
Hmm.
And when we moved up to the Virginia area pursuing the Lord's will and plan for our lives, we reconnected with him as an old friend and got to share a renewed friendship with him. And then, as part of that, he invited me to come on to the board for Veritas as a board member at the school. And you and I were chatting just before about how long that was, and I honestly don't remember. I
Yes.
think that I might be at this point on the board the longest serving board member, but I think it's been about 10 years, if I
Yeah, I
recall.
think you're right. We did discuss that, and I meant to look that up before we got here, and I didn't get a chance to do that. But I think in the 10-year-ish range. So
Yes.
you've been part of the Veritas family for a good long while now.
Yes.
We've got Ann Rill watching from Kentucky. We've got Alyssa Sultanic watching from Virginia. Ayla Johnson watching from North Carolina. Thank you guys for popping in and joining us today.
Yeah.
Okay, so you came on to the board and you're an active board member. We always enjoy having you as a part of our board conversations because you bring such rich and deep conversations. Tell us a little bit about your actual paid position, your job that you do, and that'll explain the tie, a good connection here with Veritas.
Yeah, well, we advocate for Christian education in Washington, D.C. I work for an association of Christian schools called the American Association of Christian Schools, and we organize around state associations. So we have state associations that are affiliates. And what they've asked me to do, what they've tasked our office to do, is to make sure that in the federal government, and that would mean in our lawmaking, in regulation making, in the bureaucracy, as well as in our courts, that the interests of private Christian education is considered. Primarily K through 12, but now we do some representation for Veritas as well.
Mhm.
And so we're looking after the interests of higher ed and our K through 12 schools in Washington, D.C. Now, that's the long way of saying the answer. Now, sometimes people will say, well, yeah, but what do you actually do? What are you a lobbyist? And I've taken to say, no, we're not a lobbyist, we're anti-lobbyist. and that and that's
That clears
because
it right up, right? It
yeah,
clears it right
yeah,
up for
right,
them.
yeah. Because when most people think of a lobbyist, they think of somebody that is going to government to get something from them. And
Mhm.
I call us anti-lobbyists because we're mostly here to make sure government leaves us alone.
Yeah.
This is my kind of short summary. I say we've been doing Christian education for over 2,000 years. We've got
Mhm.
it handled. We don't need the government
Yeah, we're
intruding
all
on that.
set.
That
Just
we're all
stay out of
set.
it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
but
We've
we
got
message. We
Oh, sorry.
message for
Joshua
Christian
Leader
Edu.
watching from Columbus, Georgia. We've got Dave Anderson watching from Twin Cities, Minnesota. And Lisa Joyner says hello. She's watching from
Yes. Hello,
Winston-Salem.
Lisa.
Denny
I heard,
Hastings watching from Antigua. Go ahead.
oh, very good. I heard Anne's name in there as
Yep.
well. And
Yep.
Anne would be another one of those friends that I've had since college. And it's so good to partner and to share really lifelong friendship with good people like Anne and John.
And I'm thrilled to be able to connect those dots here, like to be a timetable, a point in time where everybody can kind of connect back together, which is a lot of
Yes.
fun. So you were talking about the lobbyists and how we basically just want the government to stay out. So your organization is designed to see what's kind of on the horizon and to be able to warn schools and kind of help them guide as we're moving through these hostile waters, basically.
Correct. We build relationships because one of the secrets of political engagement is that so much of what's done is based on relationship. And as believers, this is really important because we're called to remember the eternal aspect of all of us as human beings. We're eternal souls. And so relationship really matters. Like in many senses, Christians should be the best friends to anybody that they have friendship with
Yeah.
because we're remembering that we will spend eternity with each other and God, or the alternative that we'll be separated from people for eternity. And so relationships really important, and then narrative. And so when we engaged in the political process, we tell them about our schools. We talk about the good work being done in Christian education. We talk about the good work of Veritas in the lives of the students and how we have a unique aspect to how we do education. We benefit from the technological time period we live in and are able to provide an education, a quality education to students remotely. Like we don't have to assemble in a university setting in order to provide a great education. So we tell stories, we build relationships, but all for the purpose of making sure that they understand the unique needs of Christian educators and they don't either accidentally or sometimes by design make legislation or make regulation or have court decisions which would disadvantage our ability to exercise our First Amendment rights under the Constitution to educate our children.
One thing I appreciate about your organization, because I've attended some of your quarterly meetings, I really appreciate the idea of, because those of us who are not well versed, you would hear of a legislation being passed and you think that's innocuous enough. Like, why are you
Yeah.
so worried about it? But you guys are trained and can think 10 years down the road, like if this gets passed here, then it's likely going to end up over here, and this is how it will impact us. And it's such a really impressive organization that helps us to see that those many steps ahead.
Well, thank you. That is one of the challenges. It's one of those things that I pray about. Like, Lord, give us discernment because you don't always know this from the surface of things. You don't always know what the implications are. Again, that's another aspect of the work that we do. We partner with a lot of other good organizations that, they might not be in Christian education per se, but they have the same view of government, the role of government, the human person. They have the biblical understanding of the dignity and worth of individuals, of the importance of family in society, right? So we partner with those organizations, and a lot of what we do is just communication. It's just talking to other people about like what are some of the challenges? What does this piece of legislation actually do? Is it not just broadly good or bad on the surface, but what
Mhm.
would the implications be down the road, as you mentioned? And so
Mhm.
a lot of what we do is partnership with other people and then messaging so that we're well educated on legislation, on regulation, on court decisions, but then so that we can educate other people as well. And then we offer our unique perspective as Christian educators back to the group. So we're contributing by helping them know our schools better and our needs, and they contribute back to us with sometimes their expertise on how a policy might eventually affect Christian
Mhm.
education. So
Mhm.
it's a really neat partnership. Again, a lot of it is relational and information sharing and just talking to each other about the implications of our law and public policy.
Um, I so appreciate that because it is such a comfort to have someone on our team. You know what I mean? Like, because I know I'm not a super political person. I very rarely go and seek out, but
Mhm.
you need somebody who will do that, or else we're all going to be blindsided. So it's super helpful for your team, you and your team who are so articulate and so intelligence. They just, the briefs that I hear and they come through are just really well done. Brian Wagner watching from Winston-Salem and Dan Riley watching from Inverness, Florida. Thanks so much for popping in, guys. So with that said, Jamison, with your background and your current position there on the kind of right there in DC, what's on your heart right now? What is it that you want to convey to the Veritas community?
Well, I just, as part of our work, we just came. In fact, I slipped out a little bit early from the Religious Liberty Commission meeting. Your folks might have heard or seen on the news. In fact, I sat right behind the C-SPAN camera in the auditorium. So you won't see me on C-SPAN, but if you watch C-SPAN for the Religious Liberty Commission today, know that I'm sitting right there behind the C-SPAN camera.
Okay, very good.
But what they were talking about is challenges to religious liberty as it relates to education, and so that's right in our wheelhouse.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. There were several people that spoke about like returning our country back to what authentic education is. And authentic education is really interesting because in some senses, I don't think this is an overstatement, but all real education, all true education is Christian education.
Sure.
Because we are the ones that understand what the human person is, right? So, one of the speakers talked about the fact that humans are made to know.
Mm.
If you just do a word search in the Bible, the word know, it's interesting. It's just fascinating. Paul says in Philippians, I love this, one of my favorite verses, that I might know him
Mm.
and the power of his resurrection and the suffering that he endured for me, right?
Mm.
That we're commanded to know God. We talk about knowing each other. Well, humans are the only people that were created that know how to know, so to speak.
Right.
And so we're the only beings that can know because we're rational beings, right? That's where the part that where we say we're made in the image of God, because God is rationality himself. He is perfection. He is order. He's every virtue, right? And so he's worth knowing because he is the only thing in some senses that can be known. That's what it means to be God. And education really is that process of knowing God. It brings the two worlds. We know God through the scripture, right? We study him specifically through theology and studying scripture, but we also know him by knowing the world.
Mm.
And so, in some senses, Christians should be the best educators. We should be the best at knowing God's word and God's world. And so, that's, I think, our challenge as educators, that all education, all knowing, all pursuit of knowing is in some way the pursuit of God.
Mm.
Um, either very directly through the simplicity of his revealed word to us, the scriptures, or sometimes more implicitly through the study of science and mathematics and engineering and education and leadership, right? The human mind and the human body, medicine, like all of those ways
Yeah.
for a Christian are ways of knowing God, knowing the world that he created, our place in it, our relationship to our fellow man, loving our neighbors and loving God. And so that's what's been on my heart and mind as educators, that we return to some of those simple truths. The human person is the link between the spiritual world made in the image of God, rationality, the pursuit of knowledge, of knowing, and the material universe. We're both, right? We're made out of the clay,
Yeah.
but we have something inside of us that desires something, that wants to know, that wants to pursue knowledge and understanding. And that's the pursuit of God himself. That's how we are like him. That's how we're made in his image. And so we can't ever forget that as educators and those that are educated. Your pursuit of education hopefully will get you a good job, but that's
Mm.
not the ultimate goal. Hopefully, it will give you something interesting to study and to develop your own skills and talents and abilities, but that's not the end of it. The end of it ultimately is the worship of God and in knowing him and the world he made us to live in better. And so that's what I would
It's
share with your
interesting.
students.
Super interesting you bring that up because I know in the scriptures it talks about how knowledge puffs up, but I think that
Mm,
the actual study is so humbling. Like
that's
the
right.
more that you study and the more
That's right.
that you know about God, you really are placing yourself. in perspective. And it is a very humbling experience to continue to search God. And a little bit off topic, but that the fact that he can be known, that
That's
he
right.
encourages us to know him is the
That's
fact that
right.
he can be known. And what a gift that we are
Yeah,
given.
it'd be interesting to study that knowledge puffs up because it's probably either knowledge devoid, incomplete knowledge, right?
Right.
It's knowledge that, um, like in the story of Narcissus, that just shines a light back on us on how much we know, right? It's
Yes.
it's a it's a proof of how much better we are. But I loved your point about real knowledge humbles us when we see God in his perfection, when we
Mhm.
see how much is still remaining to be known, it
Mhm.
actually humbles us.
Well, and that I think is the crux of the matter, the
Yeah,
Christian education,
that's right.
because everyone pursues some sort of knowledge, right?
That's
Whether
right.
they know it or don't, or it's intentional or not. But when we as Christians are searching to know God and to know his known world, it is a very humbling experience and can only be experienced fully as it is pertaining to Christianity and through God's
Right.
lens.
That's a good way of
Brother
saying it.
Wagner, same thing. He says, yes, so important to know the different kinds of knowing, information, understanding, skill, relationship, knowledge. Yeah, very good. Very
We use
good.
the word wisdom sometimes, right? To say it's a bringing together of all of those things, the humility of knowing something, but understanding how much is still remaining to find out, to know.
Yeah. And you'll find, especially our faculty here and our students over time in these give and takes, they're just talking about their thirst for knowledge. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you have to learn.
Yeah.
It's
Was
the
it Isaac Newton, I think, that said, when someone was asking him about the pursuit of knowledge, he says, like, I feel like I've just been a child skipping stones on the sea of knowledge. Or I think there's a quote by Isaac Newton, the great
Well, if
physicist.
somebody finds that quote, put it in because I
Yeah,
think
there you go.
it's very poignant for right now. Very good. I appreciated that. That was really good to bring to light some of the things that are going on. And I know that that was probably a very challenging meeting to sit in with the religious liberty, just with so much heavy on our country's heart now. So I can imagine that was probably a pretty challenging one to sit
Yeah.
through.
Well, they changed up the order to your point. Thanks for mentioning that because we were supposed to start with some public school teachers that had their religious liberty challenge, and then they're going to move to private Christian education or religious education in the afternoon. But they ended up opening the session with Charlie Kirk's pastor
Hmm.
and Charlie Kirk's education director at Turning Point USA, and that is because of the persecution that the direct persecution that Christians have been under. We had a church, an LDS church, in Michigan yesterday, where people were killed and the church set on fire. We had a shooting at a Catholic day school a couple of weeks ago, and the murder of Charlie Kirk. And so, what the commission started out with saying is, um, the most serious threat to religious liberty is that people are willing to kill other people to silence them being able to express their religion. And
Yeah,
so it was a very poignant start to an important commission that is studying how our country has kind of lost its way
right.
related to the First Amendment right we have of religious liberty and free speech.
Yeah, so it's almost less coming from the government than with our peers, with our
Mm.
people. So,
Yes.
that's scary stuff. All right, let's hop into if you have any tips or resources or book recommendations for our community.
Yeah, so I have two, right? So you asked me, I think, when we started out, what I was reading, and
Yeah.
what I'm reading right now is a book written in, I think, in like 524 AD.
Okay, so real current literature,
Yeah,
right?
current. It's not on the current bestsellers list, but it is still available. Penguin Classics still makes it available. It's Boethius, The Consolation of Philosophy, and it's a very interesting look. The introduction to the book. Oh, it's an interesting look, maybe a little more deeply into what we were just talking about. Like, how do we know what we know? How do we know what is the best, the highest things to pursue?
Yeah,
Uh, is happiness just this some temporary satiation of our desires, or is happiness something that will give our life meaning and fulfillment, right? So I think it's very relevant today's age, but written 500 years ago, or I'm sorry, in 500, written 1500 years ago. But it's interesting because in the introduction, they say that this man was probably a Christian,
Hmm.
But he was writing to the late Roman crowd, people that had been influenced by Greek philosophy and Roman politics. He was writing to them kind of this investigation of the meaningful life. What does it mean to mean a meaningful life? And so it's been enjoyable for me. My daughter read it as part of her college curriculum. She gave it to me as a gift so we could read together. I'm a little bit
Oh,
behind her in reading it,
okay. Oh,
but
that's
it
cool. You're
it
reading it
gives us
together.
something to talk about. But
That's
maybe something a little more practical, because I think we are talking a little bit about leadership, right?
yeah.
One of the best leadership books that I've ever read, and one that I think is very approachable and one that I share with other people, is John Maxwell's The 360-Degree Leader. The
Mm,
360 degree. And I love it because it changes how you perceive yourself as a leader. This is his central premise. Sometimes we think of leadership as the person that has the title, right? The
yeah.
person at the top of our organization, Dr. Lester for us, right? And
Hmm.
so we think of that person as the leader. But what John Maxwell says is leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Hmm.
And he says anyone can exercise influence. You can exercise influence with your friend, right? If the two of you are trying to make a decision about where to go to lunch,
Yeah.
one of you is going to have influence on the other one about where to go to lunch, right? You're going to come to some agreement, or no leadership has happened. You end up
Right.
going to lunch at two separate places.
Right.
And so I recommend that book as far as just a practical, it's not a hard read. The way John Maxwell writes, he gives you a couple of things, they become brain worms.
Yeah.
They stick inside your head so that you can remember them when you have a situation that you say, okay, well, how can I exercise leadership in this situation? What does this situation require of me? And so that would be my leadership quote.
Yeah. Good.
Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so that means anyone can exercise influence. And then the 360-degree leader says you can exercise influence across hierarchies, you can influence up, you can influence your leaders, which
Hmm.
is a beautiful Christian um, equality principle, right? That our leaders don't have the position they have because they're better people than us, that God
Right.
likes them more because they're
Right.
so amazing, but that they have a role to play, but we still have a role to play in our influence of them. And then obviously he talks about leading down, which we most often think of. We think we lead somebody that follows us. So those
Yeah,
would
and I
be
think
my
that's helpful
recommendations.
to bring up because I think he focuses a lot on servant leadership, which of course is
Yep.
the premise, like the base level, knowing that your influence, and then the further you are up in an organization, the more intentionality you need to
Yeah.
focus on servant leadership to kind of bring yourself back into submission to the people that you're actually influencing, which is
Yep.
the picture of Christ's,
Yep. Yep.
leadership as well.
Yep.
Those are great. It looks like Anne has posted those in the notes for us. So those of you who want to check those out, that the current one, from the 500 AD, she's got a link there, and then the 360-degree leader. Very good.
I
Well,
don't think Boethius ever made the New York Times bestseller list.
I
Maybe the
imagine not.
Roman Times bestseller list.
Roman Times bestseller list. Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's fun. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jamison. It's been a real pleasure. I'm going to spring this one on you last minute. We did not
Okay.
talk about this. This is a freebie for you. What is the best pizza topping?
Oh my goodness. I'm just a pepperoni guy.
Okay,
I
classic.
So I have to say pepperoni is the best, but I don't mind anchovies on my pizza. So
Okay, now
I
you are the second one to say this. Brother Wagner said this the same last
okay, all
week.
right.
So you are in good company, and I can't even believe it. I can't
Yeah.
even believe it.
It's my
So did
Italian
you,
heritage. I think
I
it's
was gonna say,
genetic.
did you grow up? Now, if Brother Wagner is still in the comments here, he's gonna come for us. He said, "Okay!" Exclamation!
Yeah,
Exclamation!
there you go.
Exclamation! So you grew up. This is your Italian heritage. You're saying you grew up
That's right.
eating.
That's right. Yeah, anchovies form an important food group within the Italian menu.
That is very funny. I never dreamed that we'd hear that again. I thought that was just maybe a secrecy of Brian. And Brian says, "See, great minds." So
That there you go. We must be in good company,
that's
Brian.
funny. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're most welcome.
I'm thrilled that you were able to take the time, carve out the time to join us, and we will have you on another time. We'll get you on again. You can tell us the latest goings on there at on the hill there. So,
Honored to be asked. Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel privileged to chat with you and the
of
students
course,
and
of
look
course.
forward to when we can do it again.
Of course. Sounds good. And to those of you watching in the community, be sure to message us. We are here to take your call and we are eager to hear from you. So be sure to let us know how we can help you on your journey, academic journey, and see how the Lord will help you take, will grab classes. Just give us a call and we'll take good care of you. We'll see you next time.